Prince William didn't slam a palace door, he did something far colder. According to explosive claims erupting across royal circles, he quietly erased the possibility of Prince Harry ever coming back. No dramatic confrontation, no public war, no shouting match behind palace walls, just silence. Calculated, deliberate silence. And now, after one shocking week packed with accusations, revelations, and brutal reality checks, insiders are asking a chilling question: has William already made a final decision about his brother that can never be reversed?
Harry and Meghan Markle just have no idea how to do the whole let's not make a terrible situation any worse thing. This is not the time. Like, how stupid are these two? Do you really expect any of us to feel even a scintilla of sympathy about the fact that you lost your grace and favour mansion? Honestly, they're not.
Somewhere in Montecito, a phone sits silent. Not broken, not lost, just disconnected from a world Harry once called home. And what makes this story so unsettling is that nobody is talking about a temporary disagreement anymore. The conversation has shifted, the language has changed. This is no longer about reconciliation, it is about exclusion. Permanent exclusion. The kind that doesn't come with announcements because it doesn't need them. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through royal watchers. Not from a critic, not from a tabloid columnist, but from someone who once stood firmly in Harry's corner.
You just go on feeling sort of jealous of George, which is not very nice at all anyway, is it? It's horrible to be jealous of a young child who's full of being brought up very, very well and enjoying life. You know, it's just disgusting, honestly, disgusting. She has made him hate his family. You can have a person in your life who tries to drown you.
That was not some random internet commentator. That was Angela Levin, a woman who spent years gaining Harry's trust, documenting his thoughts, defending him when others attacked. And now, she is openly suggesting that Meghan's influence helped push Harry further away from the very people who once protected him. Suddenly, 4 separate stories exploded within days of each other. 4 different controversies, 4 different doors seemingly closing, and standing behind every one of them was the same shadow: William, not Charles. William, that distinction matters more than most people realize. For years, the public focused on the father-son conflict, Harry versus Charles, the king versus the spare. But recent events suggest something much deeper is happening. Charles may still carry emotional ties. Charles may still leave room for sentiment. William appears to be operating from an entirely different rulebook, a colder one, a simpler one. Once you're out, you're out. The evidence began piling up fast. The first sign came through reports suggesting communication channels had effectively disappeared.
So I'm really annoyed about this. Prince Harry has such a cheek that he is now piling the pressure on Catherine, the Princess of Wales, to step in and try and save his failing relationship with Prince William. Not understanding that it's over, brother. It is gone. Finito. Just accept it. Catherine tried so hard for so long. You threw her efforts back in her face with your continued attacks, not just on William and Camilla, but on Catherine herself. These days, he tries to take both sides of the argument, but having spoken to both couples or sources connected to both couples, the big revelation from him is that Prince Harry doesn't even have William's phone number anymore. That is, of course, a mortifying revelation for the Duke of Delusion, especially given Wakeford goes on to say that even if he did, Prince William would not pick up.
Think about that for a second. No dramatic rejection, no explosive headline, just a phone number that stopped working. Sometimes silence hurts more than screaming ever could, because silence sends a message that cannot be negotiated with. And what makes this even more painful is the alleged reason behind it. Reports suggest William's deepest resentment isn't necessarily about attacks directed at him. It's about Catherine. It's about what Harry chose to publish, what Harry chose to reveal, what Harry chose to make permanent. And according to those reports, that wound has never healed, not even slightly. Then came another astonishing development. Apparently, Harry sought another route back into the family, not through William, through Catherine, a move many observers viewed as breathtakingly bold.
So the situation is this. Harry is waiting for a call William has already decided not to make. Charles, the king, the father, the man man nominally in charge of this institution is reduced to dispatching a deputy secretary to repair what his sons destroyed. A channel of communication has been quietly opened between aides. A games in Birmingham has already been planned around the hope of a public father and son moment. And somewhere in Montecito, a prince is watching his brother thrive and wondering when or whether the phone will ring.
Imagine this situation. The same family member whose life became part of public controversy suddenly becoming the person expected to broker peace. To many royal observers, that request represented more than desperation. It represented a complete misunderstanding of how much damage had already been done. And the deeper this story goes, the darker it becomes. Because every pathway Harry once relied upon appears to be disappearing, one after another, one by one. Even the people who once sympathized most strongly with him are beginning to sound different. The image emerging is devastating. A man searching desperately for someone willing to reopen a door, a family increasingly unwilling to provide a key. And then came perhaps the most revealing moment of all. Angela Levin revisited a fear Harry reportedly shared years ago, a fear connected to the next generation, a fear connected to Prince George. That revelation changes everything, because suddenly the conflict stops looking like a disagreement between brothers. It starts looking like something else entirely. Protection. William is no longer acting solely as a brother. He is acting as a father, and fathers make decisions differently. When William reportedly drew boundaries involving George, Charlotte, and Louis, many observers saw the clearest explanation yet for every other decision that followed. The phone number, the distance, the silence, the closed doors. Everything appears connected to one central objective: keeping the next generation separate from the chaos consuming the previous one. Meanwhile, Harry's public image continues facing challenges from multiple directions. Charitable projects once viewed as career-defining achievements have become surrounded by controversy. Questions continue emerging. Headlines continue multiplying. Problems continue resurfacing. And perhaps most damaging of all, critics now argue that many of Harry's accomplishments have become overshadowed by years of conflict. The tragedy here is that Harry himself once acknowledged feeling pressure from time, pressure from relevance, pressure from knowing younger royals would eventually become the focus. Now, some commentators believe those fears became self-fulfilling, and throughout all of it, one accusation continues appearing again and again: that Meghan's influence fundamentally changed Harry's relationship with the family he once loved. Angela Levin didn't merely hint at that possibility, she addressed it directly. The suggestion was explosive: that Harry remains emotionally attached while simultaneously trapped inside decisions he refuses to reverse. That pride may now be preventing a retreat, that admitting mistakes could be more painful than continuing down the current path. And just when it seemed impossible for the royal divide to grow any wider, another battle exploded into public view. This time, it centered around Frogmore Cottage, the house that once symbolized Harry and Meghan's future inside the monarchy. For years, supporters presented Frogmore as proof that the late Queen wanted the Sussexes permanently connected to royal life. But suddenly, that narrative started cracking. Reports resurfaced claiming renovations, ownership questions, repayment controversies, and disputes over what had really been promised behind palace walls. The timing could not have been worse. Harry was already facing questions about family reconciliation, and now the very property that represented his last physical connection to royal life was becoming another reminder of how much had changed. To critics, Frogmore was no longer a home. It was evidence that every bridge leading back to royal life had slowly been dismantled plank by plank. At the same time, Meghan found herself facing a different kind of scrutiny. Old interviews resurfaced, old comments resurfaced, and suddenly people were comparing what she once said with what she is doing today. Critics pointed to luxury branding, expensive products, and high-end marketing strategies, arguing that the image being presented now looked dramatically different from the one she promoted years ago. Whether fair or unfair, the contrast became irresistible gossip fuel. Every launch, every advertisement, every product announcement became another battlefield. Supporters defended her evolution. Critics called it hypocrisy. But the larger problem wasn't the products themselves. It was perception. Because perception has become one of the most powerful forces shaping the Sussex story. And once perception turns negative, every move gets interpreted through that lens. Then another royal controversy exploded. One that, on the surface, had nothing nothing to do with Harry or Meghan at all. Questions emerged regarding Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie and their royal living arrangements. Suddenly, reports discussing housing costs, financial arrangements, and royal privileges were dominating headlines. For William, these stories represented something dangerous. Optics, the future king, reportedly understands that public patience has limits. Every story involving special treatment creates risk. Every controversy creates vulnerability. And according to commentators, William has become obsessed with removing anything that could damage the institution's credibility. That obsession may explain why he appears willing to create distance not only from Harry, but from anyone carrying controversy around them. That is why some royal observers now describe William's strategy using one chilling word: quarantine, not reconciliation, not forgiveness. Quarantine, the theory suggests William is creating protective barriers around the future of the monarchy. Anyone associated with instability, scandal, public resentment, or reputational risk gets pushed further away from the center. Harsh? Perhaps ruthless? Many would say yes. Effective? That is the question nobody can answer yet. And then came the moment that changed the emotional tone of the entire week. Catherine appeared during a visit involving cancer patients standing beside people facing battles far bigger than royal drama. There were no explosive interviews, no accusations, no strategic messaging, just quiet compassion. For many observers, that image explained everything. While headlines focused on feuds, Catherine focused on people. While controversies multiplied, she appeared focused on service. And whether one agrees with royal commentators or not, the contrast became impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the story stopped being about Harry's phone calls, Meghan's branding, Frogmore Cottage, or royal housing audits. It became about what William believes he is protecting: his wife, his children, the future image of the monarchy. Right or wrong, every action appears connected to that mission. Every closed door points back to that same objective. And so we arrive at the uncomfortable conclusion many royal watchers are now debating. This was never truly about revenge. Revenge burns hot and eventually fades. What we are seeing looks colder than revenge. It looks permanent. The changed phone number, the frozen relationships, the vanished trust, the growing distance. Piece by piece, a picture emerges of a man who has already made his decision. Back in Montecito, Harry may still hope for a different ending. Charles may still leave room for sentiment. But according to the narrative dominating royal gossip circles, the real gatekeeper is no longer the king. It is William. And if this extraordinary week proved anything, it is that he is not simply closing doors. He is removing them entirely. The saddest part? Doors can be reopened. Trust is much harder to rebuild. And as the silence between two brothers continues growing louder, one question refuses to disappear: has the final chapter already been written, or is the biggest royal shock still waiting around the corner?